What's up, everybody? Coach Cangas coming to you. Thank you for that warm welcome. Shui Sin Pa, all capital letters. Coach Cangas, thank you very much. I've seen some claps on the picture. Thank you all just for joining us today. Look, can't believe it. I cannot believe it that it's almost been a year. Well, it's actually already been a year. A year since, we had the pandemic hit. Remember that? Literally a year ago from this date, we had another extra week off of school. And many of us, myself included, were thinking, cool, we get an extra week off. We'll probably be back in 2 more weeks. We'll be fine. We'll be back by April. And we were never back in April, right? And it continued on the whole semester, and until I don't think anybody thought this would go on for this long, but here we are. And I know that this year has been extremely difficult for some of us, some of you, and so I think today we want to talk about your mental health and where you're at. And I wanted to ask you, okay? I want you to be honest with me. Where are you at when it comes to your mental health? How are you feeling today, this very moment? And I'll give you a choice, okay? I want you to think about it as kind of a scale from 1 to 5, all right? 1 to 5. 1 is like, my mental health is not very good. I'm really suffering. I'm really in a bad place. Or 5, I'm doing great. Like, I feel good mentally. I feel happy. I'm awake. I'm aware of things going on. So I'm feeling really, really good. I'm not doing too good. Put it in the chats. Put it in there. All right, put it in the chat. What are you feeling like? Because look, I think it's important every once in a while. We do physicals. You know how when you go to the doctor and they do a physical to make sure that your things are okay physically? Well, I think we need to do like a mental physical to be able to figure out every single, at least every couple of weeks, like, where am I at? And how am I feeling about myself, right? So we're getting some responses. All right. Thank you. So wherever you're at, right, whether you're 1 and you're suffering or you're 5, look, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I'm in different places depending on the time of day, sometimes the week in the day. If you catch me on Friday or on Saturday, like, I'm feeling pretty good because it's the weekend. But if you catch me on Monday when I'm stressed out of all the things I have to do during the week, my mental health can kind of fluctuate up and down. And so today, I'm going to give you some tips, hopefully some strategies you can use to help you mentally, to help you overcome some of the things that you had to endure this last year, and to help you just improve your health. And before we can do that, we got to understand how the mind works, all right? One of the cool things is when I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I studied psychology. That's what I majored in. And the study of psychology is basically the study of the mind and how the mind works. And if you have not taken psychology, don't worry. I'll give you like a 30-second brief summary about what it is. But basically, the brain, the way it works, it's a ton of different cells, and they all are making connections with each other, right? In fact, the stronger the connections, the healthier your brain is, and the more connections your brain is able to make, the healthier your brain is. In fact, when you learn something, that's literally one cell is connecting to another cell, and you're connecting two different things. And so we're going to do a little bit of mental exercises. You know how you go to the gym and you exercise with some weights? We are going to make some connections to give your brain a little bit of exercise to help its health, all right? So this is what we're going to do. I want you to play a game with me, and the game is called What Goes Together with This? All right? We're going to make a connection. So a hamburger, right? A hamburger. What goes together with a hamburger? When you think about a hamburger, put it in the chat. I need some participation in this, right? What goes together with a hamburger? When you think about a hamburger, hamburgers go together with what? Loud Newly says with me. Yes, hamburgers go together with me because I love. But think about things that you think about. Like, when I think about a hamburger, it goes together with what? Right? When I think about a hamburger, it goes together with what? What else? So tomatoes, yep, lettuce. Those are things that are inside a hamburger, but what does it go with? What does it go together with? When you think about hamburgers, what else do you think that is outside of hamburgers? Yes, cheese, bread, absolutely. So you all are describing what's in the hamburger. Hamburger's made out of bread, cheese, and these. But what goes together with a hamburger, when I think about it, a connection I have, is, yeah, ketchup's one for sure. Fries. Fries. Nobody said fries. Come on. What kind of weird people are you? Do you not eat fries with hamburgers? When I think about hamburger, I always think about fries. Or when I think about hamburger, I think about maybe a drink, all right? The reason we're talking about connections is because it's one of the healthiest things you can make for your brain. Your brain grows when it makes connections. And about 2 weeks ago, I made my own connections. All right. I was doing a program 2 weeks ago for about 200 college students from California. These were first year college students. They were just getting done with their first year of college. And the majority of them were first year or first generation students. You know what that means? Basically means that they are the first people in their family to go to college. Put it in the chat. I'm just curious. If you are planning to be a first generation student, if you're planning to be the first person in your family or one of the first people to go to college, put it in the chat. I'm curious to know if you can relate to these students. Now, think about these students, all right? And you don't have to really empathize, or you don't have to pretend too much to understand, because you are in the same boat as them, right? You got caught up in this pandemic while you're going to school. You know how difficult it is to do virtual learning. Now think about these students. They were seniors last year. They were seniors that didn't get a chance to have a normal graduation. And a lot of them, their biggest goal was to make it to college. And now they're in college and they don't get a chance to walk around campus and make connections and meet people because they're stuck at home doing virtual learning. To say the least, that it's been a difficult year for them. That's to say the least. Just like it's been for you probably during this pandemic for some of you. And the conference was basically us, talking to them about overcoming obstacles and how they can still achieve their goals and dreams even though they've been going through this crazy time. And while I was doing my presentations, I would always be telling students, hey, if there's any way I can help you, if there's any way I can serve you, if there are any questions I can answer, please stay afterwards because I will be here in this Zoom meeting, right? And I told that to every session that came to me. So it was about 50 students per session. And finally, nobody did, right? Everybody would go on to another session. Nobody would stay afterwards. So I felt kind of disappointed. I'm like, man, I guess nobody needs help. And I said that to the last class. And I stayed after a little bit, but not really expecting anybody to come back. And as I was about to log off, somebody came back. One student came back out of all 200. And I made a connection, right? I connected with her, but she also made me think about a few things because she asked me a couple questions. And the first question she asked me is, are you always this happy? And I was like, kind of threw me off a little bit, right? Because I was not expecting that question. And I was honest with her. I told her, no, I'm not always this happy, right? I'm not. I'm happy here right now because part of it is because I have to be, right? Like, can you imagine if we had a depressed Cangas here, sad? Just if I literally, can you imagine if I come on Thrive and I'm like, hey guys, man, I'm glad you're here. I guess we're gonna. Hope you're excited about being a leader in your future. If I did that, if I talked that way, if I wasn't excited about this, most of you would literally be falling asleep like some of you are in your classes, right? Part of the excitement is it's not pretend. Like, I really do feel excited because when you do something you love, it creates natural energy inside of you. But I'm not always this way. If you follow me, you only see a little picture of my life, right? You see me in Thrive, but I have other parts of my life. I have my family life. I have other challenges that I go. So if you follow me through a whole week, you'll see that I have some of the similar emotions that you go through. I feel sad some weeks, and some days. I feel depressed sometimes. I feel angry, frustrated. All these emotions that you've experienced during this last year, I've experienced as well. And so I never want you to think like, man, these adults in my life, they have everything figured out, because we don't always have it figured out. And that's okay. That's okay to not have everything figured out, especially in these crazy times that we're going through. And so I was honest with her. No, I'm not always this happy. Sometimes I'm really sad. Sometimes I'm not having a great day. And then the second question she asked me really made me think. She said, well, it's good to hear that you're not always happy because I'm struggling. You know, I'm really struggling right now. Mentally, I'm struggling. In my life, I'm struggling. You know, this virtual learning has just not been very helpful. I'm really struggling. I need some help. Like, what would you suggest? What advice would you give me to make sure that I don't give up on college? And look, I was not expecting that. I had offered help, but I actually wasn't even thinking anybody would take it. And because she asked for help, I gave her some help, right? We talked about some things that I've done in my life when I've gone through really difficult times, and I gave her some tips and some strategies. And afterwards, even more than else, like honestly, the best thing I actually did was just listen to her. I did the activity that Coach Timing did with you all at the beginning, where you had to listen to the different languages. That's the best thing you can do when somebody's struggling. That's the best thing you can do when a friend comes up to you and just starts talking about their problems. The best thing you can do is not necessarily give them a solution, but just listen. Listen almost as if they're speaking a different language and you're trying to figure out and understand where they're coming from. And I listened to her, and afterward you could tell that, you know, all her problems weren't solved, but that she felt understood, she felt better, and she had some solutions and some hope for the future. And after she left, it made me think. It made me make some connections in my brain, because my brain's always making connections. It's always growing. That's why I love some of this, do this work, because it's never like I know everything, right? Every moment, every opportunity that I get to work with students, I'm making new connections. I learn new things that help me work with students even better, right? And then one of the connections, one of the things I wondered was, how in the world is it possible that all these 200 students, out of all 200, I offered my help to all 200, and only one came back and asked for help? Could it be that she was the only one that was struggling? Could it be that nobody else was struggling or had any questions or wanted to ask me about how I've overcome, you know, negative times in my life? I don't think so. Because most of them were in the same boat as she was. Almost exactly, right? All of them were first year college students. All of them were first generation. All of them were doing virtual learning and didn't like it. But she was the only one that asked for help. Why? Why? It made me think. It made me try to search for the answer. I didn't have a connection point. I didn't know why. And in fact, I think I found out the reason why I believe people don't ask for help. But I'm curious to know. And I would like you to participate in this, right? What reasons don't you ask for help? Right? Because maybe you don't know about other people, but what are the reasons that you don't ask for help in these areas of your life? In school, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. I'm going to ask you to be courageous, just like this young woman was, and write down in the chat, what are the reasons that you don't ask for help? Thank you so much, first and foremost, for responding. Like, I love it. Look, it's been hard for me, this social media, this virtual learning. Like, you think virtual learning is hard? Virtual teaching is even harder. So the way you've responded allows me to be an even better teacher, right? You can help your teachers. I don't know if you knew this, but you could be, when you're in a classroom, it's not about just the teacher telling you things. It's about you making connections and pitching and catching. That's the best type of learning. So Shui says, I'm scared. Lal says, I get scared as well, really easily, especially about asking for things. AA says, I don't like to talk out loud in class. Shui says, I don't really like talking at school. Paku's like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't ask for help. But Mak says, she asked for help. I get these feelings that I'm just troubling them. Shui says, I'm too comfortable in my comfort zone. Deepiksha says, I'm scared and shy to ask for help. Tyron says, because I'm the only one that gives the help. All right. And then Susmita just gives me a piece. All right. So Paku says, I usually ask for help, so I don't know. All right. So Paku's, and this is just me assuming that a lot of us, right? I mean, I think, I'm not, some of you do ask for help, but I think for the majority of people, it's probably something that is hard for us, right? Not everybody. So Paku, shout out to you for being able to ask for help. That's a really, really good skill to have, right? Now, these are all valid answers. These are all absolutely your reasons why you don't ask for help. I'd like to share with you all just what I believe one of the main reasons is for myself and other people that I've interacted with, right? One of the reasons that we do not like to ask for help, right? Besides all of these reasons, if you get to the core of what the main reason is, what people are scared of, is that they've made an inaccurate connection between asking for help in something else, which I call this. So most of us, when we think about asking for help, we think that asking for help goes together with something else. Kind of like the pictures that we make connections. There's been a connection somewhere in our brain that says if we ask for help, then we're weak. Right? Somewhere in your brain, there's that connection that asking for help equals that I'm weak. And if I'm weak, then if people think that I'm weak, then they think lowly of me. And look, let me tell you what, I have had this before, right? I've thought about this. Whenever I've wanted to ask for help, I think, what are people going to think about me? They're going to think all these negative things about me, including that I'm weak. And I don't want people to think about that about me. But here's why I say it's an inaccurate, it's an error. It's a false connection, right? Because it should not exist, because honestly, when people ask for help, very rarely do people actually think that they're weak. Most often, they actually think greater things about them. They think more positive things about them. I'll prove it to you. I just shared with you an example of somebody that you do not know. You've never met this person. You don't know what they look like. But you just know them based on the story that I told you, which is a real story, that they came and asked me for help, right? So this young lady that came and asked me for help, how would you describe her? If you could only use one word to describe her, based on what I just told you about her, what would you describe her as?
Courageous.
Courageous. Thank you for sharing that. Put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. These are some words. Would you describe her as whiny, as foolish, as insecure, as needy, as weak, or as strong, as courageous, as likable, as honest, as humble? I want as many people to respond, and don't just respond what you think I want you to respond. Honestly, when I told you the story of what she did, just based on that one act, how would you describe her? The most common words used were courageous, brave, strong. Now think about that. Let's make a new connection in your brain, right? Think about that. Our greatest fear for asking for help is that people will think that we're weak. But actually, when people ask for help, we actually think about them not as weak. We think about them as strong and courageous. And so what we need to make a new connection in our brains, right? Remember, the way we grow our brain, the way we have good mental health is making healthy new connections. This is a connection that can help you. Think about this. That help, when you ask for help, it's actually one of the strongest, most courageous things that you can do. And not only that, but it could be something that could save your life. And I know, because me asking for help actually changed my life. You're like, how did it change your life, Coach Cangas? Well, most of you know my story, right? And those of you that don't know, when I was in middle school, I made every mistake you can make as a middle school student, as a teenager. I got involved with some bad friends that were part of a gang. I did drugs. I disrespected my parents. I did everything that I'm telling the students never to do, right? And I was at a point in my life where I was trying to make better decisions. I was trying to get away from my friends, like that you see here in this picture. But I also had a problem, right? I had a problem with drug addiction. And so at the time, the adults in my life decided that I should go to these meetings, right? These meetings called Narcotics Anonymous meetings. They were for people that needed help. But they made me go, and I didn't think I needed help. And so I remember sitting in those meetings like this, and I was this 13-year-old punk kid, right? And there was a bunch of 40-year-old dudes there that had messed up their lives because they had done drugs. And they would just talk about how they regretted all the decisions that they made when they were younger and how they wished they could go back to my age. And I was just there, stubborn, not wanting any help. And I remember one day, this big looking Mexican dude comes up to me, right? He was like big and scary looking. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, if you need some help, I can help you." And I was like, what in the world? Like, in my mind, I was thinking, who in the world is this guy? I've never even met him before. How am I going to ask him for help, right? And he's like, "My name's Jaime." And he grabs a piece of paper, writes his number down, and gives it to me. Now, he was scary looking, so I grabbed that piece of paper. I'm like, "Yes, sir." I put it in my pocket. But in my mind, I was thinking, I'm never going to call this dude, right? Like, he's scary. I don't know him. How can he help me? He doesn't even know me. But let me tell you what. A few months later, when I finally made the decision that I wanted to leave that life behind, right? When I made a decision that I needed a new path to go in my life, when I made the decision that I was no longer going to, be involved in that negative life, I made a good decision, but I still needed help. And I was thinking, who can help me? Who can help me overcome this obstacle of addiction? And I was thinking, well, my parents can help me. They've never had an addiction. And my teachers, that's awkward, like asking them for help from an addiction. And I was trying to think about somebody that could help me that has faced this same challenge. And then I thought about that guy. I thought about Jaime. I was like, well, Jaime can help me. And I looked around my room because it'd been months and he gave me that number. And I looked around and I was like, oh my God, where's that number? Where's that number? And luckily I found the number. I don't know how in the world I still kept it. And I called that number. The most random, awkward. You think it's awkward to ask for help? Imagine calling some dude that you met one time to help you with a vulnerable part in your life. And I called him up. And I said, Jaime, this is Juan. I don't know if you remember. He's like, oh, I remember you. I'm like, man, I need help. Can you help me? And he did. I was 14 years old, man. All throughout high school, Jaime was one of my best friends. One of the people that I like, a real friend. And he helped me so much throughout high school. And he was imperfect. He was not like, quote unquote, what you would call what you look at like in a mentor, right? This guy had been to prison. He had made a lot of mistakes, but he was trying to do something better with his life. And he was willing to help me. And sometimes that's all you need. You don't need a perfect person trying to help you. You need somebody that's willing to be there for you. But you got to ask for help. Literally asking for help in that moment saved my life. If it wasn't for Jaime, if it wasn't for people like him later on in my life in college and as an adult, I could have never been here with you all. I wouldn't have been able to overcome a lot of the obstacles and challenges in my life. And so now I see asking for help as a strength, as something beautiful. Because look, one of the most beautiful quotes that I've ever read is this: if you want to go fast, go alone. Because it's faster, right? It's way faster to go alone. But if you want to go far in life, go together. Go with other people. Now I know what you're thinking, Coach Cangas, that's cool. That's cool that you had a Jaime in your life, but I don't have a Jaime in my life. I don't have anybody right now that's helping me. I lost some friendships during this pandemic. I've lost some relationships. I feel like I'm alone, like I don't have anybody. And I'll tell you this. You may be right. Maybe you don't have anybody right now. Or it could be that you just aren't letting anybody in. You're just not reaching out to anybody because you're scared. Look, I've been that person in my life where I have built up walls. You ever been that person? Where somebody's hurt you, so you start building a wall to protect yourself from being hurt again. And that wall that you used to protect you actually imprisons you from building those relationships. And so I want to challenge you as your coach, right? It's being challenged is good for the mind, remember? And as your coach, that's what I do. I want to challenge you, and I want you to think about, is it really that I don't have anybody in my life? If you're one of those people saying that, or is it just that I haven't reached out to anybody or haven't acknowledged the people that are here? Because let me tell you what, a lot of times there's actually a lot of people that want to help you, but you're just not seeing them because you're so tied up and you're so focused on the people that have left that you forget about the people that are here. I remember last year, around this time exactly, when everything shut down, right? My work shut down completely. Like literally my work is speaking to students in schools. Well, you know what they were not allowing a year ago? Speaking to students in schools. So I had no work. I was depressed. I was watching Netflix and watching every movie I could because I had no work and nothing to do. And I finally watched so many movies that I watched every single one of them. And so I was on my last movie binge, watching my last set of movies. I had watched everything. And I came across this animation movie called Onward by Disney. It's a Pixar movie, right? Yes, don't judge me. I had nothing else to watch a year ago, right? Has anybody in here ever asked or watched this movie, Pixar, or Onward by Pixar? Anybody on here? And you don't have to have watched it, but I'm just curious to know if anybody has watched it. Paku E. All right, the picture has watched it. All right. So those of you that have not watched it, don't worry, you'll get the same out of it, right? So if you have not watched it, I would highly recommend you watch it. It's a great, great Pixar movie. Because look, the great thing about Pixar movies is not only are they like fun for kids, but each one of them has, and maybe this is just like the motivational geek in me. Each one of them has an inspiring story, right? And this animated movie Onward has one of the most inspirational messages that I've ever seen. And so they go on this quest, right? The younger brother, which is a little bit skinnier, and the more like thicker older brother, they go on this quest to find the missing spell, because once they find that missing spell, then their dad can come back. And the younger brother, that's all he's ever wanted for his life, right? Like, that's his greatest dream, is to be able to meet his dad, who he's never met because he died before he was old enough to even recognize what a dad was. And so they go through this amazing quest, and at the end, they find the missing spell, and they're able to bring their dad back. But however, because it's a Pixar movie, they're like fighting this dragon towards the end. And so the younger brother has to make a choice. With 2 minutes remaining, will he go and meet his dad, or will he let his brother, his older brother, go and meet his dad? Because only one of them can go meet him because they're fighting this dragon. And the younger brother realizes something. He makes a connection that he hasn't made before. You know what? I've always had a father figure. I was so focused on my dad not being there that I forgot who actually was there for me. My brother, my older brother, my imperfect older brother, my goofy older brother. He's been like a father to me. He's the one that showed me how to ride a bike. He's the one that taught me all the lessons I needed to know. He's the one that's always been there for me. But you know what he also realized? You know what connection he made? He also made a connection that his older brother never had anybody else to look up to. He never had a father figure because his dad died at such a young, when he was really young. And in the most amazing moment in Pixar history, which I believe, is his brother sacrifices himself, right? He gives up his opportunity to go meet his dad so his older brother can go and see his dad for 2 minutes one last time and say goodbye. It was, if you haven't watched it, you gotta go watch it. But here's the message, right? That younger brother realized that actually I do have people around me that want to support and help me. I just haven't opened my eyes, and I haven't looked around and seen how many people I do have. And you don't need a ton of people, right? But I know I've been guilty of this and done this. I remember 6 years ago when my best friend, Coach Eric, my friend who co-founded Thrive with me. We did Thrive for 5 years. It was some of the most amazing time ever. My best friend left. He went on to another job. And I was so hurt. And I felt so alone. And I was so focused on my friend leaving that I didn't realize there was other people in my life that were going to help me to make Thrive successful. I didn't realize that there was this skinny little Nepali kid from Central High School who was an intern that would become one of the amazing coaches of this club, right? I didn't realize that in 6 years or 5 years later, Coach Timon has still been here with me. Because sometimes we're so focused on the people that have left us that when you don't recognize the people that are here for us. And so I want to give a shout out to Coach Timon, because without him, without his help, there's no way that Thrive would have been able to be successful these last 5 years. So give it up for Coach Timon, everybody. I'll be honest. I'm going to keep it 100 with you all. This year, in November, I did not want to do Thrive. I didn't think it was going to be possible. I'm like, there's no way we're going to be able to connect with kids online. Nobody's going to want to come. It's going to be the most boring thing ever. And I only did it because Timon said he would do it with me. I really did. If he would have said, no, I can't do it, I would have been like, you know what? I can't do it alone. And because, when you have somebody else, it makes going to scary places and trying new things a lot better than going by yourself. Because remember what I'm teaching you, right? If you want to go fast, you go alone. But I'm telling you, it's so much better to go together with other people, and you'll make it further in life. So, last thing I'm going to share with you all is this, right? I want you to think about this. I want you to think about what's an area of your life you're struggling with, and who could you take a risk on and ask for help? Or maybe you're doing really well right now in life, right? You're on one of the mountaintops of life. I want you to put down who is someone you can help. How can you help them? Okay. Thank you for those of you that are sharing. For those of you that haven't said anything, please send something in response to these questions. So, Bamak says, I can help my friends. So that's good. You know, and we all need moments where we all have different moments in life, right? We have moments where we're in valleys and we need somebody's help, and there's moments where we're in our mountaintops and we can lend a helping hand. Look, literally, if you have a Thrive shirt, it looks something like this. All right, you know what that is? That's people helping each other out. So there's always someone that needs help, and there's always someone there to be able to offer the help, right? And sometimes you're on top helping someone else, and sometimes you're in the bottom asking for somebody to help you, right?